Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 708th. You think I would remember for like 5 seconds, but squirrel. 708th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have John D. Marvin. He is the president and CEO of Texas State Optical. Just wrapped up a conversation with him, and I like talking to dudes with gray hair. It's good to get some wisdom, some perspective, some insights from folks that have been there, done that, been through ups and downs, and are still in the game. So they have a unique model of how they grow, and I asked them a lot of questions because I didn't understand it at first. So it was cool. So we had nearly an hour conversation, and he was an open book, and I'm linking out to his LinkedIn. He has nothing to sell. If you want to pick a veteran's brain about business and marketing, hit him up on LinkedIn, and he'll call you back. I mean, he's just that kind of dude. So they are out there, right? There are people that just want to give back, and he's in a position to do so. So it was a good conversation. It was inspiring, good way to start the week. I'm recording this on a Monday morning. So good way to start the week. And I had some folks over the weekend talking about starting the week, signing up for 12 Weeks to Peak, 12weekstopeak.com. It's free. It's a habit tracker. You can fill in the gaps, hold yourself accountable. And that's what this one lady said. She was all the way from Kenya. And, because I asked the question, what do you want to get out of this? She says, I need to hold myself accountable. So having, a tracking sheet over there, having a daily, weekly tracking sheet, having things in front of you, digital is fine. And there's a digital component to this. I give you a mobile app for additional assets and bonuses and tools. But having that paper right in front of you, staring at you to do what you said you're going to do, it's powerful. Okay, so if you're looking for that kind of insight and support and accountability, there's a free group that I have right now on LinkedIn. I may move it, but it's on LinkedIn for now. And, ask your questions, share your wins, share your goals, and grow. Okay, that's why I do this. Grow sales, grow marketing, grow yourself. 12 Weeks to Peak focuses on the faith, family, fitness, and finance. So the 4 biggies, that's what we're all about. So go download that and then come back and listen to this episode with John D. Marvin. John Marvin, fellow Houstonian, I won't say hater, let's say fellow disliker of the UT Longhorns. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Well, Wes, it's good to be here. Now you just got me in trouble with quite a few people, I'm sure. So,
hey, I pick on everybody.
Hey, it just wasn't for me. What can I say? Just wasn't for me.
That's awesome. I have some of my greatest online debates with some UT fans, friends of mine, and I'm a freak, right? Everybody knows it. Like, I grew up in Baton Rouge, so like literally the first college game I ever went to, my grandfather took me to an LSU game. I was like 9 years old. So that's my first love, right? And then I moved to Texas, and then the Air Force Academy recruited me. I played football for Air Force. But growing up in Texas, good friends. My stepbrother went to A&M. I went to A&M for meteorology, and so it's like, all things being equal, I'll pick Air Force. All right, it's my alma mater. But then it's LSU, then it's A&M. But so when LSU plays A&M, I want it to be like 50-49, but I want LSU to win.
Well, that's a trifecta that's pretty strong, really. Those three
it's
together.
Crazy. I got Aggie hats, I got LSU hats. People are like, "Oh, you're on the bandwagon." I'm like, "No, I really did earn all these. That I'm not a fair weather fan."
That's great.
Crazy times. Well, hey, I like talking to people with a little gray hair. We're in the middle of all this work from home and social media marketing and cold email and now AI. But I keep telling people, like, at our core, like, humans haven't changed in thousands of years. I think people get too caught up in the high tech, so you're the president and CEO of TSO. right? So it's in the optometrist eyeglass business.
Yes, it's a network of independently owned optometry practices. So they do eye exams, treat different levels of eye disease, pathology, glaucoma, retinal issues, sell glasses, sell contacts. So yeah, it's the kind of, we call it family eye care.
And you've
Everything
done
you
it
need.
for almost 25 years?
I have been president since 2001, so I'm on my 24th year of
Okay.
that as president. But I've been working with the organization for about 10 years before that. So, and then I've been in the eye care business since 1984. The first 10 years were with ophthalmology, and then got involved in optometry in 93, 94 time period.
Okay. Did you start this organization or did you take it over?
Well, great question. No, I did not. Texas State Optical was founded in 1936
Oh, wow.
by four brothers in Beaumont, Texas, and or what you probably refer to as Western Louisiana.
Yeah.
But
It kind of is. There's a
yeah,
lot of
it's
Cajuns out there.
we call Lake Charles East Texas. So,
Yep.
but anyway, and so next year will be our 89th, our 90th year next year
Nice.
in existence. And other than the founders, I've been president longer than anyone else. And so, yeah, the company's got a real rich heritage and legacy in Texas. In particular, when the brothers owned it, we had offices in Louisiana. We had offices in Arkansas, New Mexico, Oklahoma. All of them it was a regional organization, but always the heart of it's been Texas. So today we have all but one location in Texas, and that one's in Lake Charles. So,
Okay, cool. So I know nothing about this space.
okay.
A good friend of mine, we know from church, they got a big family. They got 6 kids. And late in life, when we moved here 20 years ago, we met them, and he was the general manager of a local Trader Joe's. And he had started going, and I hate to admit, I don't know the difference between optometry and ophthalmology, but he was going to, I just say eye doctor school.
Okay.
And, he was, golly, late 30s, going on 40. And I was like, what are you doing? So he became our family eye doctor. And so, he's been our guy. He worked obviously at a place as an employee to get a start. Then he bought the practice. The guy was retiring, and so he's done pretty well. But I don't know anything about it. Is it hard to start one? What are you doing in this organization? Is it almost like a franchise model that you have, or like the National Association of Realtors? You're just helping independent company, offices grow?
Well, our business model is one built on the legacy value of the brand being 90 years old. And so our company business model is a brand license company. So an independent doctor who's got his own practice or her own practice will license the use of the brand so that they operate and practice under that brand. And the reason they would do that is the credibility that it assigns to them of a well-established brand. And but everything else about their practice is their own. We don't have any operational controls over the practice, with the exception of how they use the brand itself. They can't change the logo and rearrange the letters or anything like that. But it is a contract arrangement that they license the brand, whereas a traditional franchise would be more operationally involved. We're not operationally involved. We do offer an entire library and kind of menu of different a la carte support services that they can choose to take advantage of should they want to, including training and education of staff, practice management guidance and direction, advertising and marketing support. And then we'll recruit staff members for them. We'll recruit other doctors to work for them should they decide to do that. So we're as involved in helping them as they would like us to be, but they're not obligated for anything to take advantage of anything.
Gotcha. So you're running a pretty good size organization, and are you more focused on getting the word out to the general public? Like, hey, let's build brand awareness and goodwill in the marketplace. Are you driving like direct response marketing for individual locations? Like, how do you spread your team's efforts?
Well, good questions. I'll start with the going back to a question or a point you raised about the difference between ophthalmology and optometry. Ophthalmology are surgeons, and they've gone to medical school, and they are first and foremost medical doctors, and then they've developed, most all of them practice surgery. So cataract surgery, LASIK surgery, retinal surgery, those types of areas. Optometry have gone to optometry school, and they are primary care practitioners of eye care. But their license and their educational background, they're not involved in surgery. But they have good relationships with ophthalmologists to whom they would refer a patient should they need it. That ophthalmologist would refer the patient back to the optometrist for follow-up care and more primary care. So what we've done is taken this brand that has got this years of long legacy and built a opportunity around it for young optometrists who come out of optometry school and maybe are initially employed because there's an awful lot of student debt that goes along with any kind of graduate school. And but they've decided they would like to own their own practice. But being, late 20s, early 30s, have no idea how to do that. And so we offer a whole turnkey system to help them engage a realtor, find lease space for their business, negotiate the lease. We provide attorneys to review the lease for them. We also have contractors that we work with that can help design their office, build it out. And we have a whole checklist system of, okay, here's what you do 90 days out from opening, 60 days, 30 days, 2 weeks, 1 week, and grand opening. So it's a whole turnkey system, as well as we have a set of standard operating procedures for them to use. And because they're young and new and really don't know anything to the contrary, we find them to be very interested in taking full advantage of all the support that we can provide them. And then over the next 3 to 5 years, we kind of back off and help them kind of stand on their own and operate on their own. They pay a percentage of their sales to us for the use of that brand and all of that support. We have supply chain contracts and agreements with different vendors that they can take advantage of if they choose to. And so my job is growing the business, getting it up and established, these new practices up and established, till they can kind of walk on their own, and then turn my attention to recruiting new ones and helping them get set up and established. So we work closely with 2 schools of optometry, one in Houston and one in San Antonio, and speak to their students, talk about the advantages of private practice versus employment, and make a real effort to let them know that we are here to help them get established in their own practice. In terms of advertising the brand, That's their responsibility to do. But we are part of that brand license agreement is that we control what is used and the messaging and that information to go out into the general public. For instance, we do not allow pricing and discounts to be used in advertising of Texas State Optical. Doesn't mean we don't offer pricing and discounts. It's just there so many companies in the business today. That's what they use to try to differentiate themselves is we're just as good, only we're cheaper. And that we don't believe does our brand any good. We don't believe it does our member licensees any good to constantly be focusing on kind of the cheap aspects of eye care. And 2/3 of all of the revenue into one of our locations are paid for by a third party through vision benefits that are associated with insurance plans.
Right.
So people use those benefits, and it takes the whole pricing issue kind of becomes secondary to them because they've provided for that in their plan.
Woo! Thank goodness for the mute button. I had to sneeze. Are you not running like any marketing and advertising? Like, is it word of mouth, like hitting the schools like that? Or are you doing maybe some broader, just like branding, image kind of awareness ads? I mean, I would imagine you want some of these young doctors at least knowing the name, right? And granted, they've probably seen you around.
Yeah, I just got back from the Texas Optometric Association meeting in Austin that runs over 3 days, and our involvement there was directed towards both students, but also young optometrists that are out, probably employed someplace, and to talk to them about whether or not they'd be interested in opening their own practice. But as far as advertising and brand advertising, that is left up to the individual licensees to decide and pay for, because we do not charge them an advertising contribution. And our brand license fees are set very nominally, just as a mechanism of tying the organization together. And we really do have kind of a relationship that's very hands-off. And so we don't charge a lot of money that we would then turn around and spend on their behalf. We do spend a lot of money on their behalf, but like I said earlier, it's all optional. They can decide to take advantage of it or not. So like any offering of services, you end up providing those to a percentage of the membership that does take advantage of them, but there's another larger percentage that don't. And so, but, we'll have an office that says, I want to do some advertising. Well, we have an in-house marketing department that says, okay, we'll design it for you. We'll make sure that it's effective for you. And then that doesn't cost you anything. You just take advantage of that. And then we will show you the cost of the media that you'll pay for. If it's a Google AdWords campaign in your community, we'll show you how to do that so that it's effective. We've got providers that we have partnerships with, that if you want to do that, you can either try to do it on your own, or you can take advantage of this partnership agreement we have and utilize their third party to do that on your behalf. And so, especially when it comes to advertising, because the brand is such a central part of that, it's important that we be involved so that we manage how that brand is presented in a community. But as far as corporate doing the advertising on behalf, we do not do that.
Why do you do it that way? It seems just like you might have economies of scale and maybe charge like a little bit more and just run everything. You know what I mean?
It's a fair question. As far back as probably the mid-'80s, up until 2014, part of their membership was a advertising contribution that every member had to put in a percentage of their sales into a large pot, and then that pot was used to advertise, that pot of money was used to advertise the brand and to do things locally, but also citywide, statewide, to provide brand membership. And the board of directors, who are one of the things that would help maybe explain this, is in 2001, the franchisees, because up until that point it was a franchise organization. In 2001, the franchisees bought the franchisor and changed the model from a franchisee-franchisor model to a member-owned cooperative that was a brand license business model. And so the company is owned by the customers of the company. And so every location is a shareholder. And therefore, the board of directors is comprised of shareholders that are elected by the body, a group of shareholders. And the shareholders at that time in 2014 said, we no longer want to pay an advertising contribution. We'll advertise on our own. And so we eliminated that. And along with that, the decision was made that corporate would not be in the business of paying for advertising, that we would go into more of a support role for the offices that chose to advertise, and not everybody does. So that was changed by the owners of the company in 2014. And the difference in our organization as opposed to more traditional is that our shareholders are also the company's customers. And sometimes that ends up decisions at the board or corporate level end up being made that benefit the customers that might be looked at by outside business people and going, you did what?
Yeah.
But we believe in everybody's right to their own opinion. It's their company. And my role and advice here is to give some guidance, direction, recruit new members, and to put the company on a path to be successful, meaning more locations, more gross revenue and the aggregate, but also the individual office revenues. We don't want to grow our corporate revenues purely by numbers of locations, new locations. We want our current members to become more financially successful. And to that end, we've doubled the average revenue per member since I've been president. So we average a little over $1 million per location. And that's twice what it was when I took over as president. And a very successful today, $1 million is a good practice of optometry today. Mm-hmm. We have some that are 2, 3, and 4 million, but $1 million is kind of where you really start to enjoy the financial rewards of your practice. And right. So we have a large number of those that we've got, enough that the average overall is over $1 million. So
you said y'all have pulled back from other states. Is it limiting, to focus on one state? Now, granted, it's a big ass state. Or is it empowering? It's like, hey, we're gonna be as good as we can be right here. We're not going to Maine. We're not going to Miami. We're gonna dominate our backyard.
It's really a practical, strategic decision because as you point out, Texas is pretty large. And we believe that we could have 300-400 locations in Texas and still not have too many. And if you have that density in one state, there are a lot of benefits from that. One is you're only dealing with one set of state laws that deal with the practice of optometry.
Yeah.
2, I can get in my car and within 5 hours, I can be in any office in our network. I don't have to go to an airport and fly someplace. And the people that we hire that work in the field that go visit these offices can cover a larger number in a week than if they were flying from state to state. So it really is a practical, strategic decision. And consequently, there are others that benefit. Our supply chain benefits because of the density and the ability to, their sales representatives can cover more offices in a condensed amount of time. I mentioned earlier that a lot of our revenue comes from third-party payers. We benefit them to a appreciable degree when we've got this density so that they could come in, make one deal with us and know, okay, well, that marketplace is covered because we've got enough locations that we can provide delivery for them. And so there's just a lot of practical value in keeping everything in Texas. Now, if we were operating in a state like Kansas, we might be, because of this different, Kansas has got maybe less than 3 million people in it. Texas has got almost 30 million people in it. So, it'd be a different scenario, I'm sure. But we're fortunate to be in Texas for a lot of reasons. But we're fortunate. And so given that, until we hit the 500 unit mark, I don't see any reason to think about moving out of state. I mentioned we had one office in Louisiana in Lake Charles, and that's a legacy office, been there for over 40 years. And so we're certainly not going to, and he's close enough, of course, we treat him like he's a part of Texas. But as far as putting effort into growing more locations outside of the state, we're not interested in doing that at this time.
Yeah. Well, if you can get there in 5 hours, that means you're not in Lubbock or El Paso yet, right?
Not yet.
Man, we lived in Austin and for 5 years before we moved out here. My wife's from out here, and we would make that drive. And it's like, if we could get to El Paso, and it's like, hey, we're halfway to California. You don't realize how big that state is till you're driving it with 5 kids in a van.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I took my oldest son to college in Plainview, north of Lubbock. And good night. I thought we were never going to get to that place.
They say if you rotate Texas at Beaumont, then El Paso is farther north than Chicago.
Yeah, and it's farther west than Los Angeles.
Yeah. Oh, if you pivoted the other way? Yeah.
Yeah, if you did it that way, because the distance between Port Arthur and El Paso is farther than El Paso to L.A.
Yeah.
It's big amazing.
Old state. But Alaskans are happy to tell you if they cut their state in half, then Texas will be the 3rd largest state. It's always something. Somebody's got to one-up you always.
Yeah.
Good times. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I appreciate that approach. It's like, tell people all the time, bloom where you're planted, right? It's like, I see people want to, pivot is the big word. Well, I'm going from this industry to that industry. Like, why? You really think this one industry is tapped out? You think you've reached the fullest, maximize your potential? And I think certainly entrepreneurs, they get bored. They want to chase the shiny object. But I tell people all the time, like, boredom is when you get a breakthrough. If you're just frantically always, every day is just urgent, 20 hours a day at the office, there's no breakthroughs happening. And you're about to have a breakdown,
Yeah.
Nobody, and I appreciate your earnings model because, you're seeing all these arguments now with tariffs and whatnot. And people don't understand, like, are politicians allowed or whatever, were coerced or blackmailed or bought to allow all this international production, Levi's and Apple and whatever, to extra penny in earnings. They pushed all of our capabilities overseas. But I just read Apple's going to hire 20,000 U.S. employees in the next 4 years.
They're putting a data center in Houston.
An AI data center in Houston. They're doing something up in Michigan. But it's like, Okay, maybe their earnings won't be truly maximized, but the nation will be stronger. I think they'll get more loyalty, more goodwill, but it's always been just the bottom dollar. Like, no matter what, like, really, is that truly all that matters, is maximizing your earnings no matter what? Like, I mean, it sounds like that's not your philosophy, right?
No, I mean, like I mentioned, the owners of the company are also our customers, and
Right.
so it doesn't benefit. We made I'm a big believer that you make money only two different ways. One is get more customers, or sell more to the customers you already got, right? And so our version of that is we can go out and get more locations, but if our current members don't grow in their value, they don't grow, then we have not provided the kind of value to them that they were seeking when they joined us. And so we've always prioritized the balance of that. I mean, we have to continue to grow in locations, but not at the expense of the other. And we can't just focus solely on our current members growing at the expense of expanding our consumption ability through new locations, because a very key partner in this business that ends up in a pair of glasses on somebody's face are the suppliers involved. And they want to continue to grow their business, and they want to work with companies like ours that will help them grow that business. And part of that comes from that dual approach of new locations, and helping the current members grow larger and larger. Now, optometrists, by their nature, are not business people, and they don't look at their practice as a business in the same way that I might look at it as a business. One of the leadership in our organization, optometrist leaders, told me one time, he said, "Now, John, you're going to look in an office that does $750,000 a year in revenue, and you're going to see a lots of untapped potential. That could be $1 million office, a $2 million office." And he said, "But I'm here to tell you, there are many optometrists that are just $700,000 optometrists. They make enough money. They like their life. They don't want the hectic and constant pressure of figuring out how many more people do I need to hire? I got to train those people." That's not interesting to them at all. They just want to make sure they can provide the care they want to the patients that come to them. And so when I'm working with an office, I have to realize that, maybe this is a $700,000-$800,000 office. And for me to try to have a higher expectation for that person's business that they themselves are not interested in is, the old adage, trying to teach a pig how to sing, just going to frustrate you and irritate the pig, and so we just don't. So we keep looking for those. And of course, we're interested in getting people who want that $2 million office, because we can help them get there. But there's a lot of difference between this and hamburger joints, where, every hamburger joint, the primary focus is selling lots of hamburgers. You got to make sure they're tasty, but you got to sell a lot. And here we've got some locations that their focus is not got to have more patients, got to have more patients. Their focus is on taking care of the ones they got.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's like, you are not your customer. David Sandler talked about that. Something like, don't paint seagulls into their picture. And I got to go back and look up the story, but it was kind of projecting your own preferences onto somebody else's work, and it's like, and I've had this discussion so many times. Don't let the world define what success means to you. Those $700,000 offices, they probably have 2-hour lunches. They probably have a whole day off in the middle of the week somewhere in there, or a half a day. And, They're not taking any work home. They're not doing emails at night. They're coaching the little league. They're home for dinner, and probably not on blood pressure meds, and everything else, because they're living life on their own terms. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, God bless
That's
you.
that's why they wanted their own business. They wanted their own practice. Some people are real pleased with owning their own job. But to them, that's what it is. It's a job. This is what I do. I'm not a business person. A business person owns 3 or 4 locations and can take a week off and go someplace, and their income continues to go up. That's not for everybody, and it's certainly not for every optometrist, because it takes a certain skill set to be able to do that. And some have it, most don't, and most aren't even interested in it. So it's
right.
not right for me or anybody else to tell them they should be more like this other, be
Right.
more like your brother, so
Yeah.
to speak,
Let me know how that goes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Or
So
sister.
what's your biggest challenge as a leader of a big company?
Balancing the changes in the marketplace with our strategic approach to that marketplace. Healthcare in general has gone through the last 25, 30 years, has gone through a massive consolidation. And so there was a time, certainly when I grew up, that the local hospital was owned by the county, and in small town Kansas, where I grew up, owned by the county, and was there to provide a service to the community. And they attracted doctors to come to that community that would own their own practice and provide support by admitting people into that hospital. And then the hospital gets sold. And it gets sold to another hospital corporation that's buying up hospitals all over rural Kansas. And now there's a financial demand that says we can't run at 50% capacity. We've got to have 70% capacity. That means we've got to have more doctors involved, so admitting more patients. Well, I can't get anybody to come to rural Kansas. Well, we can if we hire them. And so they start buying up these private practices and now employ those doctors. And the 60-year-old retiring doctor out in western Kansas sells their practice to a corporation that hires a 30-year-old young medical school doctor. Will pay off all your school debt if you'll go out and work in the outpost in rural Kansas, and we'll pay you this much money a year. And so that model has just evolved across the country into other areas of healthcare, into metropolitan areas like Houston, where now there are hospital corporations that own large groups of hospitals, that own large clinics that employ doctors. And it's very difficult to find a family physician today that owns their own practice, or a pediatrician, or a dentist, or any other type of primary care. And that's been happening now for about 20 years in optometry. And large companies are buying up optometry practices, some of our members, and operating under their own model, own delivery supply chain system, their own back office system. And those doctors that have spent 25, 30 years building a practice, a large practice, there's not a young OD out there, young optometrist out there that can go to the bank and borrow the amount of money necessary to pay the retiring doctor what they would really like to have for their practice. And the consolidating company comes in and says, well, we'll match that offer and pay you 50% more.
Mm.
And so that's going on in healthcare and certainly in optometry. And that's a challenge for an organization of private practice.
Right.
And so balancing, how do we navigate through that? How do we strategically realign the company in some way so that we don't, even if it's not so that we can double the size of what we have, but so that we don't become irrelevant and get smaller and smaller and smaller. At the same time, young optometrists coming out of school today are not interested in owning a practice. They're not even interested in full-time jobs. Most of them are interested in part-time jobs.
Right.
Some of that is because 8 out of 10 young optometrists coming out of school are females. And they see optometry as a great profession that gives them an opportunity to practice what they've learned, but the flexibility to have a family, be there at 4 o'clock when they get out of school, not work Saturdays and weekends because my kids are in baseball or ballet or soccer or something like that. And so it's just a changing time in healthcare in general.
Yeah.
And we're not immune from that. And so that's the biggest challenge, is navigating that change in the marketplace.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're a unique guest, because I ask everybody when we start, it's like, what do you want me to promote? What do you want me to link to? And it's kind of like, it kind of makes sense now. You're talking about how y'all grow. It's like, you just want to get the word out, right? I mean, just kind of share your story and just see if you can help people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
deep down, you probably have some upsell model. You're probably going to lure us into some crazy coaching and masterminds, huh? You're going to put some like Texas barbecue. You're going to lure us in. Next thing I know, my Amex is hit for $50,000. Come on, you can own up to it.
Well, if you just click the link at the bottom of the screen.
But wait, there's more. Operators are standing by. Numbers are limited.
That's right. I'll throw in some steak knives. But no, it's just, Wes, really, I have shown an interest and been involved in taking advantage of opportunities like you've provided me, because I feel like I've learned a lot. And in many, many ways, I look at the organization that I'm responsible for somewhat like a church, in the fact that because it is a network of independent people, no one has to do anything that I say they do. It's kind of like a congregation that you have to lead through influence. And so what I've learned in that, and then I've come to appreciate that, frankly, all leadership is influence. I'm a student of John Maxwell's, and he talks about his model and his definition of leadership is that it's influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so learning that and learning what that means and how to develop that, not only for myself, but for the people that work for me and the doctors that lead offices, is something that I think when I've kind of learned it and experienced it, it's something I feel that I want to share with other people, at least that perspective. And you may not agree with it, or you might, but at least I feel like it's real. And it's something that I have learned. And the more I've lived it, the more I understand what Maxwell's talking about and why that's such a valid definition of leadership. And then a part of that is your own personal growth story. And if you sat down with 10 people and said, tell me about your personal growth plan, most of them would look at you like you didn't know what you were speaking. They didn't know it. They weren't speaking English. And so I think that that's important, to have an intentional personal growth plan that will cause you to continue over time to develop a richer and richer life, whatever that is that means to you. And then, of course, intertwined with both of those is understanding and how to develop the proper mindset to do that. Mm-hmm. And most people's lives are completely dictated to them by their mindset. And it's, that doesn't mean they won't be happy. It just means that some people choose to live a limited life because they live a limited mindset. If
Yeah.
only this were different, I could be this, and I'm not a good speaker. And they just limit themselves to
Yeah.
certain things. And by going through these other areas of personal growth and understanding leadership, I've come to really value that at the core and the kind of the foundation of it is mindset.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so those three key pieces to me are something that I want to share with other people.
Yeah.
And so that's why I take the time to be on a podcast.
You need to make Marvin's Mindset Masterclass. That's what you got to launch. Mm, mm.
All right. Well, I think I may
www.mmm.
I need a business manager like Wes to help me get that launched.
Well, that mindset is so important, and like none of us are immune to it, right? I've been in this space a long time, and my two oldest are boys, and my second son is doing very well in real estate. My oldest, he was just home. He's done very well in high tech, in crypto. He's up in the Bay Area and doing well. But Matthew, Jake's learning. He's deep in the AI and the tech model. Matthew's deep in my world, right? Marketing, sales, persuasion. He's watching all the videos, and it's so funny. There's nothing new under the sun, right? The big guys now. I'm like, you want me to show you where that came from? Here I have the book. It's 70 years old. He's,
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
But I started to downplay my own value. I mean, it's the old curse of knowledge. You diminish, right? What it's easy to downplay what you know. Oh, everybody knows that. No, they don't know that. And my son's like, just start talking, right? Because I'm seeing this gap, and the different people that I listen to are talking about like the younger people don't have mentors. And if they do, they're like kind of bad. The Andrew Tate of the world, buy a plane. If you don't make $1 million, you're worthless. I mean, they're growing up without father figures. And it's like they're looking for some guys with some gray hair to say, let me give you a little insight. And it's like, well, I can do that. I got gray hair. I drink coffee. I know things. And it's really that simple. It's like, just share what you and I would consider common sense, but young men in their 30s, 20s, it ain't common sense to them.
Yeah. It isn't, and there's really no resource that's going to disrupt their lives to give them an opportunity to learn it. But at the same time, it didn't for me, and I probably didn't for you. I mean, you end up, at some point in your life, you say, you know what, I think I want to be better at something. And then you figure out, well, where do I go? And you just start looking. And another friend of mine says, people find what they look for. And if you look for things to grow and develop, you'll find it. If you look for catastrophe and disaster and frustration, you'll find that too. And so some of the advice I give to people is just start. Just start. Decide what it is you want, which is the hardest part. But once you do, just start. You're never going to be good from the get-go. Take any great athlete, they were never good when they started, but they started. And by committing themselves to continuing to start each day, then over time you learn and you grow and you become better at it. And so it's available to everybody if they want it.
Cool. Well, I will make your LinkedIn link available to everybody.
Well, thank you, Wes. Appreciate it, man.
Mr. John Marvin, President and CEO of TSO, Texas State Optical. Very nice. Well, I get out to Houston every now and then, reunions, and my mom's out in Bastrop, so I get out there. And, I will save your number. Let you know when I'm
please do. Give me a call. Love
My,
to have a
my,
cup of coffee with you.
well, I'll do you one better. My cousin, when they're in season, he'll cook some crawfish. So we do them old school
Ooh,
Cajun way. Get the big pot, and they are good.
my
So
gosh.
he's right by you. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, we're just about, well, we're on the front end of that season, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah
all
boy.
good. Les le
Okay.
bon temps roulé, and gig
Thanks,
'em
Wes. That's right. That's right.
down with the horns.
That other school we won't talk about.
They'll go unmentioned. All right,
Yeah.
John Marvin, man. Hey, great catching up with you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Wes. Appreciate it.
Hey, I hope you liked that episode. You know, I'm looking at John's LinkedIn cover image, and that's an image of downtown Houston, and it's pretty much the angle that how I would see Houston. My high school was right downtown, just a mile or so from downtown, and heading down Memorial. So we'd approach the city from the west, and so his photo is pretty much from the west, maybe the southwest. But you know, it's like makes me nostalgic, right? I'm happy to talk with people with my background, right? It's why we get along with folks. Like in sales, we try to find some common ground. And so just seeing that image, you know, that's cool. We get that little warm fuzzy. But I mean, he's just a straight shooter, like as you see. And I'd be interested if some of you let me know your experience. Man, still coughing. If you reach out to him and let me know how it goes. He will make himself available, and we need to do that more. You know, it's I'm going through some stuff right now in our family. My mother-in-law has been ill. She's on hospice, and my wife's very private, so we haven't talked much about it. But you know, I reached out to some folks in the community and said, "Hey, this is what's going on, and you know, can we get a meal train going? Because we're all staying over there, and you know, we're picking up food, and she can't eat, so we don't want to cook there. We're eating outside. But I mean, people want to help. You know, people want to know. Your friends want to help you, and there's a gift in giving. There's a gift in receiving. There are graces that are bestowed upon us when we give. There are graces that are received when we humble ourselves and accept assistance from others, you know, and people immediately responded. And you know, you always say, "Oh, let me know if I can do anything for you." So it's like, yeah, okay, we're hungry. It's sad and funny, ironic, as that may sound, as shallow or heartless that may sound, but I mean, it's like, it's true. It's like, I'm trying to keep things going here. You know, my wife has not been home for weeks, really months. We've been dealing with this, but I mean, she's over there nonstop now. Fortunately, she's very close, you know, just a few miles. And so the entire family has been getting together last week, like through the weekend, and we're going through pictures. And, you know, the bittersweet thing is my mother-in-law still has all of her faculties. Her body's just shutting down. And so she's telling stories last night of, because we have an interesting family. We have sisters who married cousins. And so even though some are divorced, everyone's still related. So, and we're still confused, you know, who? Oh yeah, that, yeah. So I don't want to hear redneck stories about Texas and Louisiana. Rednecks are everywhere, right? There's families, although it's all legit, but it sounds kind of crazy. So, but she's telling us stories and, reminding us who's who in the family tree. And, you know, we had family from Northern Cal come down. My son came down from San Francisco Thursday until Sunday, flew out yesterday. Some cousins, you know, from the Bay Area came down. But we've all, I mean, 12, 15 of us, you know, hanging out for hours, playing with kids, grandkids, great grandkids. You know, it's been good, right? It gives us time to process this. But, you know, I tell you this just to encourage you, reach out to John. He is sincere. He says, reach out, right? Connect with him on LinkedIn, John D. Marvin, CEO of Texas State Optical, TSO Inc. And just see what's up. No agenda. So, hey, maybe you just need a voice, someone to bounce some ideas off of. He will do it. So avail yourself of that, right? You've heard me talk about the 12 weeks to peak. If that's not your jam, hit the website. I'll put a link to I'm starting to write more emails to inspire you, help you. I'm not in a position to just give all my time away for free like John, but I do think I'm reasonable. And I do think you get a bang for the buck, and you get what you pay for. All right. So if you're looking for somebody with a little less gray hair, but can give you more time for a nominal fee, hit me up. All right. Either way, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.